and welcome to the Property Unleashed podcast with me, your host, Mark Fitzgerald. And today I am joined by a special guest. I have the lovely Louise Wynne with me. Welcome to the show, Louise. Great to have you on.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Good stuff. So Louise is the director and founder of Wildkind Interiors, and she is all about how you can maximize your profits and how you can actually make a product out of your property investing properties that can increase your earnings, can make it more comfortable for the people that are living or staying in your properties, and generally just help you attract more attention and, of course, more profits, which is what we like, to your properties. So, Louise, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Oh, how long have you got? I started my career best part of 20 years ago designing show homes for big national house builders like Barratt's and Persimmon, all those kinds of guys. And then about 18 months ago, I just decided to set up on my own. And I now work, as you very eloquently said, with property investors and developers, whether they are selling properties or they are selling rooms. So I have a staging for sale service where I bring that kind of quality, show home quality, to the rental market. So if you are an investor and you don't want to spend tens of thousands on a big show home, because that would just be ridiculous and wouldn't make sense, then you can rent all that kit from me, and me and my team will stage and style your property, and you can borrow that stuff for a fixed period of time. Or if you're selling rooms, so you've got an HMO, co-living space, if you've got an SA, holiday let, etc., and you want, like you said, more eyes on that property, then you can work with me to get higher yield and just get more eyes on that property.
Brilliant.
Better return on your investment.
That's what it's all about. It might as well maximize the effort, because you do still see, even in today's market, a lot of people that, you know, want to scrimp and save, particularly when it comes to designing things. I speak to and know a few investors. Most of the investors I know are a bit more savvy now, but they'll spend an absolute fortune on a property, on, you know, redesigning a property. And then when it actually comes to marketing the property itself, they fall flat in the face, or they scrimp, or they save, and they think it's not worth its weight in gold. But I know through chatting to you, and we've known each other a while now, that, you know, people can maximize the profits just by, you know, bringing in a team, a professional like yourself, to come in there and actually help market things. And of course, I say right here and now as well, the marketplace is stagnant. You know, properties aren't selling the way that they were. So you finding that you're being able to go in there and help people?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to staging for sale, it has gone a little quiet now because people are just thinking about Christmas. But the best time to think about staging your property for sale is from the outset, not putting it on the market, testing the market, and then keeping your fingers crossed, and then suddenly panicking and going, nothing's happening, I'll stage it. If you get a property stager in before it's even gone on the market, then you can literally hit the ground running. It's that cliche of, you know, first impressions count. If you do it after the event, then you've already had a massive proportion of those people in that area who were interested in that property. They've seen it, they've not been interested in it. It's harder to get them to come back. So it's always more successful if you do it from the outset, for sure. And with the kind of interior design service that I offer, so if you've got an SA or an HMO, you know, the market is fairly saturated, especially with SA. So if you want to stand out, you really need to get a designer involved, again, from the outset. And you mentioned that you kind of are in the circles now with people who really do value interior design, and they get a team in from the beginning. But there are, I mean, I speak on the PIN circuit. I go to lots of different networking events. I see really experienced investors and developers talking. And then if they have that slide up that says, you need a power team, honestly, I have never seen a slide that has either an interior architect or an interior designer on that slide. And I will learn to be this, but I should be more bullshit and like leap up and go, stop. You don't have a designer on there, but why don't they have a designer on there? Yesterday, so I've got a new client who I'm doing 3 essay designs for in one area. So I'm coming up with a kind of brand identity for them, a look and feel that they can tweak depending on the target market that they're aiming at. But I got from them some architect's drawings that I then needed to do a lighting schedule from. And we're doing it in a little bit of a roundabout, not quite in the right way that we would normally do for reasons I won't bore you with. But the architect had done exactly what the architect was supposed to do in that scenario. They'd done everything, you know, it's no criticism of them, but an architect's job ends at a certain place. And I then had to figure out the lighting plan. And when I looked at the furniture layout that the architect had sort of dropped on there, and this is the bit that they don't need to think of to sort of in depth, it didn't particularly make sense. So I spent 3 hours once a job that I thought would take me probably an hour, reconfiguring the furniture, making the flow correct in every room so that I could then nail that lighting schedule, so that when we come to doing speccing the furniture, it's perfect. It's exactly how it should be. And the lighting works with the placement of the furniture. So you can see how working with a designer from the beginning will make your end product so much better than it would have been had you not had a designer and had you just worked with an architect and then done the rest yourself. So that's just a brilliant example of how, you know, working with an interior designer can save you money and make your product better at the end of it. Very long-winded way of answering your question.
That's all right. I like long-winded. That's me all over. I'm long-winded, but it's great because you get the details, you get the facts and things.
Yeah.
And we were just chatting before this, and I said to you, you know, interior design, I know my strengths, and interior design, being creative with colors, and that's not a strength of mine at all. So for me, basically, for my benefit than anybody else, but let's just say I've acquired a property, whether I bought it or not. I'm going to do a refurb on the property myself. Now, I would have gone with the mentality of thought, you know, I need the architect, I need plans, I need to get the build team in. We need to have a little look at this. I'll think where the sockets and stuff will go because, you know, that's what I think I have to do as a property investor, rather than being, so to speak, the director or the CEO of my property business and thinking, why not get the experts in that live and breathe this to be able to tell me the best place for sockets, if you're going to put a bed there or you're going to put a wardrobe here and you're going to have your furniture and the way it's all going to be. So from my perspective, I've just bought a property. When would you say that I needed to speak to somebody like yourself?
Right at the beginning. So and an interior architect or designer can help with the drawings, with the technical drawings. So taking over from the architect to plot all the furniture out correctly, think about the lighting positions, all the sockets, think about the placement of furniture, the size of the furniture. So many times I'll look at a plan and it's got a table, let's say with 8 chairs around it, a circular table. And then when I get the dimensions of that table, you could only actually in reality fit 4 chairs around it. So these are the skills that an interior designer has in terms of proportion and size of furniture that an architect just doesn't need to get involved with. That's not their job. So if a designer can be involved from the outset, then there's going to be no nasty surprises at the very end, which is traditionally where people view an interior designer coming in, you know, just making it look nice at the end, making it look pretty. But if they've done that work, what's that?
There's a bit of paint here, a bit of picture there.
Karate chop a cushion, fluff the bedding, job done. But no, if they can be involved at all of that from the outset, then you'll get a much more polished finished product, and they can work and do that bit at the end and make it look amazing without any, like I say, nasty surprises at the 11th hour. So always from the outset. And, you know, any experienced property investor and developer will know that and will have someone like that on their power team for sure. And because you need to be able to cost something as well. You need to have ideas on, is your budget going to work for what you want? a designer can actually, you know, tell you whether or not you've got that the right amount set aside to get that finish that you want at the end.
Cool. Because you'll only do it a couple of times if you're a property investor before you actually think to yourself, hang on a minute, we always leave this to the last minute and it comes
Yeah.
back and bites us. So it is handy to know, because I don't think a lot of people do know when to get an interior design. For me, myself, I would have said, well, once the builders have finished, then I'll hand it over to your good self. But like you say, it can be too late then. And of course, architects, they're not looking at the functionality of stuff. They're just banging it on a drawing and saying, this is where your table and chairs will go. This is where your sofas, this is where your beds will be. And they don't know. They're not walking around the property. They're not living in that property either. They're just saying, well, it needs a bed, it needs a wardrobe, it needs, you know, if it's a room. So I love that. And of course, the other thing is that I like, and I like talking to you about this as well, is, you know, that people in this day and age now, when they're living in properties, maybe renting properties or even rooms, it's not so much the property itself, it's more how the property makes them feel. People buy emotions. Now, if you buy a car, you bought a specific car. I might look at your car and think, that's not for me. Why would you buy a car that looks like? But somebody's emotionally attached and bought that car because it means something, or it makes them feel a certain way. And this is what, as property investors, I know for a fact now, because I've been doing it over time in the rooms and stuff that we have and the properties that we have. You get that emotional sort of effect that people walk in, they think, oh, I'd love to live here. All of a sudden then, you know, your prices can go up, you know, because people are willing to pay a premium for that. And I think it's still a lot of the old thinking is it gets overlooked. And I bet you see, obviously, more, you know, you see that a hell of a lot more than I do. For me, I see a room, and somebody says, well, a bed can go here, you know, an ensuite's over there. And I'm like, yeah, I need to see it. I need to see a plan. Where some people can walk in and envision it. And so for yourself, I mean, how do you sort of get that, like you say, that flow so it feels right?
Gosh, people do say I can just walk into a room and I immediately know what to do with it. I feel like I need to consider things a little bit more and take my time a little bit more. And sometimes you have a technical drawing in front of you, and you really are playing around with it, getting different pieces of furniture, configurations with furniture, and just moving things around and figuring out actually what works best. So it can often take a little bit of time, rather than just entering a property and going, ta-da, I know what to do with it. You know, it does take a little bit more thought. So often you'll be playing around with different size sofas, or does a corner sofa work better? Is it two seaters and two armchairs, whatever it is, and you're moving things around like a bit of a jigsaw and figuring out what works best for the flow. So it does take a little bit of time, which is sort of going back to what I was talking about with the lighting plan I was working on yesterday. It takes time and it takes consideration to sort of figure out what might work best. And it takes, you know, CAD drawings and different sort of technical packages to actually know that you're doing that to scale and in the correct manner, so that when you're in that property at the end, it works effectively. So I would love to say that I have light bulb moments when I walk into properties, but that isn't always how it works. It does take a little bit more thought and care. But you just made me think, actually, I staged a property for sale. So that's when I stage for sale, I am renting out, like I said, kits. So I have a certain kit, as I call it, free, and someone rings me up and says, oh, can you stage for sale? Then I will use that kit. I might add to it and slightly change it, but in essence, that's what's going in a house. So there's no kind of planning of space or anything, because those people are borrowing from me. It's not a show home where they're buying everything. So I'm making the best use of what I have in terms of their property. And if I don't feel something will work, that's when I will add to my kit. The point of me telling you this is I was staging a 4-level townhouse in the summer, and they wanted window dressings as an upgrade, because normally, because you can't move window dressings, that's not something that's in the standard package. So I went a few days before to measure up the windows, and I walked into this house, and I walked into this enormous room, And I was like, this bedroom's massive, but it doesn't have an ensuite. And then I was like, oh, it's the lounge. But because it was a house on 4 levels, it was really a house that needed staging. So that it was great that they decided to do that before going on the market. But it just shows that even someone who's been doing this nearly 20 years sometimes struggles to understand the usage of a room. And yeah, that's when staging is a really, really good idea.
Well, it
Definitely.
is, because it gives you that whole concept and that whole idea about, like you say, there's no mistakes, is there? You're walking in, it's like, oh, a living room or another living room or something like that.
Yeah, totally. Yes, absolutely. But
No,
I mean,
cool.
I say awkward houses are good for staging, but I genuinely believe that no house should go on the market without being staged. Or of course, if it's Mr. and Mrs. Jones's property, without them decluttering and making the best use of it, because we are humans, like you've just alluded to. We buy based on emotion. You cannot get as anywhere near as excited about 4 empty walls as you can about, a room that's furnished, where you understand how it's supposed to be used, and where color and pattern have been introduced. You probably heard me say this before, Mark, but color is emotion. We process color in a part of the brain where we process emotions. And therefore, it is a scientific fact that color makes us feel an emotional, makes us have an emotional connection, an emotional response. So it's so important to kind of introduce that into a property, and you will get more eyes on, and you are probably going to get it sold for more money, and you will get it sold more quickly. And if you do that retrospectively, yes, it's helpful still, but it's not going to have the same level of impact as if you were doing it from the outset.
And you've got to change that mindset of thinking. I always say, think of property as a business. Now, if you go through any of the big, home builders, what is their first house? What do they call it? They call it a show home.
Yeah.
And what's it got in it? Furniture. It's got wallpaper. It's got paintings. It's got all sorts. It gets you in there. You feel like, I want to live in this property. I don't want them to change a thing. Because
and have they stopped doing show homes with all CGI and virtual staging? Have they stopped? No. There's a reason for that. And they have all the money in the world to be able to invest in the best technology, which they do, and they have some great technology as an additional resource. But there's still a show home, and there's still often several show homes on a site, and that's for a reason. So if you want to copy the big players in the business, then it is their best marketing tool, and it can be anyone's best marketing tool. That goes for whether you're selling properties or you're selling rooms within properties. It's getting something presented nicely is your best marketing tool.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel, and follow, like you say, what the big boys are doing. I always look at the £1 million houses, and when you walk around, those houses for sale, they're dressed. They've made them into show homes. You can sit down, you see yourself living there, can't you? Put your feet up. Yeah. So why not do it with your 2 up, 2 down? Even if you're selling that, get the most you can from it, because the cost that you will pay for making it into a show home, you will more than make on the sale. On the price, you'll probably even treble what you've actually paid somebody like yourselves to go in there and dress it, and you'll sell it quicker. So if you are stuck on the market at the moment and you're struggling to sell a property, as you've rightly said there, I didn't even think of that. People will have come and seen the property, A, because it's maybe in an area that they like, B, because it's a property that they like, but they've walked around an empty carcass. It feels cold. It doesn't feel homely in any way, shape, or form if it's an empty property. And of course, if it isn't an empty property, let's just hope it's nice and tidy. That's another one. You see some of those beautiful pictures, don't you, that the estate agents put on. And like there's a pile of clothes in the corner. You always think to yourself, well, you just move that, wouldn't you? You just wouldn't have that there if somebody's coming around to take pictures of your house. Anyway, that's a different topic. I've gone off topic. But yeah, you really want to feel the emotion. You want to feel the property. You want to get the vibe as you're going in there. And I bet it's quite satisfying.
Knickers drying on the screens, do you?
Well, not really. No. It's not a big selling point, is it?
In a bad way.
Yeah, it's like walking around and saying, "Hey, up, love, that's all right. I can hang me boxer shorts there. Happy days. I'm buying this house." That's not the sort of people we're trying to attract here. We want a premium. We want a premium. But I bet it's quite satisfying for you as well, is it not, to go in there with a blank canvas, and get the results that you want.
It really is. And often I go into a house and I'm like, oh, not sure about this. And then, and I won't be the only one who does this, that thinks this. So it's not me trying to blow my own trumpet. But by the time I'm finished, I'm pottering around in there, just doing all those kind of last minute finishing touches. All the team have gone, all the furniture's in place, and it's the extra little bits which do make a hell of a difference. So those accessories and all those bits that kind of really elevate it and make it feel like a home. And I'm pottering around in there and I'm just clearing my stuff up. And then I'm like, I could actually move in here now. And I'm not just saying that because this is what I do for a living. I genuinely mean it. Often the transformation is massive. And one of the best bits is seeing people's faces when they come back into their property and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe what you've done with it. I don't want to sell it now. So yeah, it's brilliant to hear things like that. But I actually feel that myself as well. A property can feel uninspiring, or it can just feel, like you said, cold and uninviting. And then suddenly it feels like a home. So it's not a scam. It's not something that designers talk about working just because we like design. It actually does create a better feeling, and that should equate to a quicker sale and a higher return on your investment.
Definitely. And it's certainly not a scam, as you say, because people are doing it. Big companies are doing it. IKEA makes a fortune, and people
Yeah.
walk around, IKEAs to look for inspiration. And that's why they give you the rooms, so that you can feel their products and think, I want that product in my house. Again, if you walk around any other furniture shop and you just see them in rows, I'm terrible for that. I'll walk around and Lisa's a lot more creative than me. She'll be like, oh, that looked great in the living room. I'm like, I don't know. She'll put it in the living room and it'll probably look great. I'll be quite honest. But when I'm there, but of course you go to one of these showroom places, you sit down on the sofa there, you look over, you think, yeah, I can put my beer on there, I can put that in there, that are happy days. You emotion, it's all emotion. And of course, colors, like you say, are massive on that, aren't they?
And just talking about color, it is the same with color. So all those paint companies who advertise a particular paint color, that's the paint that will sell. When builders are speccing a kitchen and they put a particular color kitchen in a show home, that's the one that will sell. People need to be able to be shown. Not sure if this figure is correct, but apparently 9 out of 10 people really struggle to visualize something. So when they see it, they're good with it. But actually, if you show them a green kitchen cupboard door, they'll be like, oh my God, it's a green kitchen cupboard door. Put it in with a worktop, style the kitchen. Then they're like, oh, it's a green kitchen cupboard.
Nice.
So it just does really help. Yeah. And I think that's, talking about color, I do appreciate that a lot of investors, they really do try, and developers, they're really trying to add a creative element to their design. If they're designing themselves, they're trying to use color and trying to get away from magnolia and just beige or gray everywhere. But the problem then is, if you're not trained and you're not experienced, you start to look around at what other people are doing. And then the market becomes saturated with a feature Farrow and Ball, Stooky Blue wall, that really dark navy. So everybody has 3 white walls and a dark navy wall as a feature. And it's not that they're not trying, they're making an effort to do something. And I do totally see that. But that is all you see now. Or in an HMO, you see a headboard in a bedroom with a yellow or orange stripe behind the headboard that goes onto the ceiling. And that, that's someone trying to be creative, thinking, well, they've done that, I'm going to give that a go. But then everyone's doing it. And also, I'm trained in color psychology and massively question the use of really bright colors like that in a bedroom. And I don't think it's the right space for it. So having someone who is trained and experienced in the use of color and pattern can really help you do something different and to stand out from the crowd. So it's not a criticism, but if you are someone who is feeling like you want to invest in a designer, but you're not really sure, you've been dabbling and you've been trying to do it yourself, but you recognize that in you, then maybe it's time to actually employ someone to do that design work for you.
Definitely. So what are the services then that you offer?
So I offer, like I say, that staging for sale service. So that's for investors and developers who are selling, whether they're selling one plot or whether they're selling, 50 or 100. Just being able to get that show home look by borrowing that furniture, and having an experienced team come in and stage and style the property. So that's going really well, and I'm trying to grow that side of the business. I'm just about to invest in another kit. I've got a job happening in January, so that's all very exciting, and I'm getting my 8th kit. So I've got 7 out there doing their job, helping to sell properties around the north. And then the other service I offer, I can kind of work with people much further afield, because I can do a lot of the work virtually. So it's an interior design service, as I've been talking about sort of on and off throughout this chat. So if you've got serviced accommodation, if you've got an HMO, co-living space, and you're wanting to kind of elevate that, then I can work with investors to do that. So at the moment, like I say, I've got a client who's got 3 essays in Liverpool. I'm working to create a bit of a brand identity as well, because they are very much going for it, buying lots of properties. So I'm coming up with a kind of color palette and tweaking that palette to use depending on the particular target market for that particular property. So that's really nice. It's kind of working with them at the beginning of their journey and creating something that they can be proud of and roll out for different properties in the future. So yeah, that's very much more an interior design service, and that's kind of the more creative side of the business, really.
So you don't walk around show homes yourself, or at least and drop a few business cards for anybody potentially looking to buy a new home?
When I set up on my own, I kind of had to keep my hands off the big house builders who I'd worked for previously.
Okay.
From my employer. So then I was like, what am I going to do? And then I thought, right, well, I'll work with people with kind of small to medium-sized portfolios. That's fine. Well, I'll do that instead. And I went to PIN in Harrogate, and this whole new world has opened up to me of, property investment and networking and training and everything that I didn't know existed or was out there. So actually, from something that I was a little bit nervous about, because it was a slight deviation, it was a deviation in terms of the clients that I'm used to working with. It's been brilliant. I've really genuinely, one of the best parts of being an entrepreneur, doing what I'm doing is the networking, is the growing my network and meeting new people. And yeah, like I say, a whole sort of world that I didn't even know existed has kind of, is now my world, really. So yes, I don't do that in terms of dropping my business cards off, but I have worked with some big PLCs who they've had a show home. Or not even just PLCs, but the really big national house builders, they've had a show home and they've now got a stock plot, so a plot that's ready to go, but it just won't shift. Or they've only got maybe 20, 50 plots left to sell. They don't want another show home. They sold their show home a while ago. They're not going to spend another 60 grand on one. So my service works really well for them. So actually, I do still work with some of the big ones, but I don't know how popular I'd be if I did my business card round in this area with my previous employer.
Well, no, fair enough, fair enough. I mean, the old saying goes, you don't know what you don't know. And I have to say that when you're in the sort of ecosystem of the property world, it feels quite a big system, doesn't it? It feels quite a big place to be, rather than.
It's like,
But
how did I never know?
Well, that's what I was going to say. When I was in my corporate job, I didn't know about half of this, or I didn't know about any of it. And so a lot of people say to me, well, it's saturated in what I'm doing. Everybody's doing it. They're not. near enough everybody doesn't know about what you're trying to do, what you're doing. You do now because social media, and it always hears you talking about property. So all it does is show you property, and you think the whole world's doing it, and they're not. We're only a small little marketplace, but it is bigger than you think.
Yeah, totally. And I've got not that many connections on LinkedIn, really. I'm still 18 months in and I'm growing that. But I feel like I know all the investors in the country. And then I look at someone who I've just connected with and they've got like 25,000 connections. I'm like, oh, I've still got a bit of work to do there then.
But it's good on LinkedIn, though, isn't it? Because if they've got all those connections, then all of a sudden there's second connections to you. I don't know how it all works and everything, but it is good to reach out and connect with people as much as possible there.
It's a good place to hang out,
If somebody was buying a property themselves, would they be all right to? So let's just say I was buying another house to move into with my family, and I thought to myself, do you know what? I want a Louise touch on my house. Could I employ your services to basically design it for me?
I do have a couple of residential clients. It has, yes, but it has to be a big sort of decent project. Like you say, if you're wanting to overhaul the whole house, I don't tend to work on a sort of room by room basis or just a few rolls of wallpaper or, a decent kind of project. When I say a decent project, I mean something to get my teeth into that I can. So I'm not just working on one room and then the rest of the house doesn't feel cohesive. Just I can help you to create a cohesive look and feel for your whole house, for sure. Yes. But it's not something, they always say you've got a niche. So when I first started out, I was like, right, I'm an interior designer. I can design anything. I'll work with anyone. And then as time has gone on, I've been like, why am I doing that? Stick to what you know. I'm used to working with developers. So that is my niche. I will use that as I always have done. But that's not to say that for the right resi client, I wouldn't work with them.
Okay, cool. Always handy to know. Brilliant stuff. So at about this time, normally I like to do a little quick fire round quiz. It's not a quiz, actually. It's just a few questions that I like to ask my guests because I'm interested in the answers. You all right with that?
Yeah, good.
Cool,
I think.
cool. What's the best advice you've been given?
Oh, God, there's so much advice I've been given. I'm just trying to think if I've got a best bit. I mean, what I am realizing and what you hear a lot of within property is that, and it's real cliche, is that your network is your net worth. And I've said this earlier, I'm loving kind of getting to know people and where that's taking me. And it's so interesting. You sort of have goals and you have a path that you think you want to get to here. But it's that little journey on the way that is just brilliant. It takes you off on little tangents, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. I mean, last night I went to an event with female founders in Leeds, and that happened because of a whole other string of events of meeting different people. So I just think getting out there, networking and meeting people are so much better connected than I am. They've been doing this for way longer than I have in terms of their entrepreneurial journey. So although I think I'm really expanding my network and getting out there and meeting people, there's still so much more to do. And that's actually exciting. And yeah, I love that. And you can't, as a certain property investors, you see everywhere and they literally live for networking, but that's a brilliant way to be. That is the way to be, isn't it? I think. So yes, that's probably the best advice I think I've had.
That's good. That's good. I like the one, and it goes along with that. The more hands you shake, the more money you make, because it's all about relationships, isn't it? Making money is all about relationships. So brilliant. Good stuff. Good stuff. If you could sit and have dinner with 3 people, alive or dead, anybody in the world who has been around in existence, who would you like to sit down and have dinner with? You got 3.
I love Mary Portas. Do you know Mary Portas of Mary Queen of Shops off of like the 90s? So she had Ginger Bob. No, you don't know her. Anyway, she was all about, she worked for Harvey Nicks, and she was all about consumption and buying stuff. And now she's much more about better business and doing things the right way and ethically. And she's a real kind of powerhouse of a woman. So I would love to have dinner with her. I also absolutely love, you might not have heard of this guy either. His name's David Hyatt. So he lives in Wales, and he started a t-shirt brand that was bought by Timberland, maybe in the noughties. And he's from Cardigan in Wales, which used to have a massive jeans factory, and 400 people lost their jobs overnight at the beginning of this century. And he is on a mission. He's now set up a jeans factory with his wife, and he is on a mission to get those 400 people their jobs back. And he is really inspirational, brilliant writing, and I just find him fascinating as well. And I should probably say someone that's no longer alive, shouldn't I? But I can't think of anyone.
You're free.
On the spot. Not very good at this kind of thing.
Try do it.
It's why you do it. You could have given me a heads up here, Mark. Come on.
No, but this is just it. It's just off the cuff.
Yeah.
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah. Is this an embarrassing length of silence?
Yes.
Margaret Thatcher.
Okay. I've heard of her.
I just said it. That's my mind just gone blank. No, I don't mean Margaret Thatcher at all. Everyone's switched off now. It's like, you said Margaret Thatcher, I'm switching off. Third person is, I would go for, Mark, my mind's gone really blank.
Okay. No worries. It could be anybody. It could be a friend.
I know. I'm going to go for, I'll just go for Margaret Thatcher.
Okay. Interesting. Be an interesting table.
I don't know what's happened to my brain. I've literally forgotten all the people I know.
Well, get ready, because you've got some more questions coming. Hey, this is fun. Right. So, okie dokie. Do you listen to podcasts?
A little bit, not loads. I tend to listen to music when I'm in the car. Okay, were you going to ask me my favourite podcast?
Well, have you had 3 podcasts that you recommend?
I can't do 3s.
Can't do 3s. Well, you got to, because that's the rules.
Can I just check what they're called?
Yeah, of course you can.
You're going to need to edit this. You do know that.
We don't do edit.
And I've turned my phone off as well.
Oh, blimey. So you cannot think of one podcast that you listen to off the top of your head.
I can't. I just can't think of the names of them.
Oh, all right. Okay.
How to Own the Room is one of my favorites. So it's about people who have real presence and how they own the room when they walk into a room. So I do love that. I just can't remember. I can't remember whose podcast it is.
Oh, don't worry about that. I just need the names of them.
How to Own the Room, definitely. And there's also another one by someone called Elizabeth Day that I can't remember. Mark, I'm really sorry.
It's all right. It's not a problem. This makes it entertaining.
I'm a woman of a certain age and my brain has gone blank. Everyone's dying for me. Don't ask me names, okay?
I'm rubbish with names. You know.
I can't do names on the spot.
One more. Come on, and you've done it.
Right. Okay. My phone's on. Oh yeah. How about what's his name? Stephen Bartlett. That's an obvious one, but
Diary of a CEO.
It is really good. There you go. I said I'd do 2.
You did 3, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely 3.
Diane something. What was that one?
How to Own the Room?
No. Well, was that Diane?
Oh no, I know what I like. I really like. There you see. I just needed to look at my phone. I really like Annie Mac, changes. That is really interesting. So she interviews people who have had 3 significant changes in their life and what those changes were and how it affected their life. So she talks to all sorts of different people. Cool. So I always listen to that on the plane.
Nice.
Sorry about that, listeners.
Right, the next 3 things. Your top 3 books.
Oh my God. Right. I'm not telling you my top 3. I'm just going to tell you what I've recently read. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
It can be anything as well.
It can be So I have just read, I bought this years ago. I've just read How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is such a good book. But I do wish they'd update it because the reference points are like Roosevelt and, you know, people from, I don't know, 100 or so years ago. So it just feels too dated. I think it would really benefit from a refresh, but a great book. Really have enjoyed that. And then I've moved on to, and then I've only just read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I know, because most people start with that, don't they? But
yeah.
That's a good book. So I've just bought his other one, but I've not read that yet.
What's that? Cash Flow Quadrant.
That's the one.
That's better. That I enjoyed that more.
I've heard that. People have said that. Yeah. So that's why I bought that one. And then the Think and Grow Rich. I'm on Think and Grow Rich at the moment.
Napoleon Hill. Good book. Good book.
That's the one. Yes. Yes, I did 3 quite quickly there.
You're going through some really good books there. The thing is, you could say influence people. What's it? How to win friends and influence people. Yeah. How to get update it when the author's dead?
Well, because that you can not the author update it, but I don't know.
Yeah, there must be taken away from. I know what you mean. I'm
no, because honestly, genuinely, often books are updated. That's not.
Oh yeah, I know.
The Rich Dad Poor Dad. Oh, he updated it. Fair dues. He did
update that. Or their kids do it, or their trust, or whatever. Yeah, I'm only kidding. I'm just kidding with you. Just kidding with you. But yeah,
no. But I do think it should be. I think you should write to the editor. Make that happen.
I'm all right. I can deal with how it is now, because I think a lot of the old things still apply today. Yes, we've got certain things, but yeah, I get what you're saying as well. It is quite nice to have more up to date sort of examples with things that's more relevant to now. But you know, that's a classic. Let's change the classic.
Go play with a classic. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you can. I'll leave you to it. Right. Let's find out how. So if anybody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to contact you?
I love using LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Louise Wynne, WYNNE. And I think I was fortunate enough to be the first Louise Wynne on LinkedIn. So you'll find me very quickly if you type my name in. And I'm also on Instagram and a little bit on Facebook. It's at Wildkind. So WILDKIND Interiors. I'm dabbling with other socials, but they're the ones that you can find me on. And I've also got a website, wildkindinteriors.co.uk.
Absolutely marvelous. Well, we'll put the links to your social feeds in the description. So if you're listening to this, go down and have a look. If you're watching this, go down and have a look. And reach out to Louise. She's always posting. It's great to see. It's great to see that you're also, getting out there. You're doing your talks as well. So, local networking events. She talks all different events and things. So do keep your eyes open for her. She's a lovely character. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor to have you joining me here today.
Thank you so much.
That's all right. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
That I think I need to take some kind of vitamin for my memory, and apologies for stumbling over that little question bit, but no, I'm all good. It's been fun. Thank you.
No, it's good. It's been good. So again, make sure that you've enjoyed this episode. Please feel free to share it with any friends, anybody that's out there. You can leave us a 5-star review, which is always gratefully received and helps the show to reach a few more people as well. And it's your good deed for the day if you do so. But yeah, follow, subscribe, like, comment. reach out to Louise on social media. I'm not sure what happened there. And at the end of the day, make sure that you have your vision. You know how to take action on your vision. You break your vision down into goals, bite-sized chunks and tasks that you can do every single day. You be consistent and persistent in your approach, and you can achieve anything. I look forward to you joining me in the next episode. You all take care, and bye for now.